I want you to ask any leadership team, no, I dare you to ask any leadership team whether they're ready for AI and watch and observe what will happen. Because the answer is almost never a fact, it is a mood. One person will say, well, we're quite advanced, actually. Another person will say, we are behind. And the person who holds the budget will say something diplomatic, probably, about us being on a journey. And trust me, none of those are answers you can actually do something with. I have sat in that meeting more times than I can count. And the sole reason that it goes nowhere is not that the people in the room are not serious. It is because they genuinely have no shared way to measure the thing they are arguing about. Readiness gets treated as a feeling, and eventually the loudest opinion wins. And the company either freezes when in fact they should be moving or charging ahead, when it absolutely should not. So essentially what I want to give you in this episode is the one thing that this meeting is missing, which is a scale. I want to talk about 5 layers, 5 levels each, with a plain description of what every level actually looks like on an ordinary working day. So instead of arguing whether you're ready, you can actually score yourself, honestly, in about 10 to 15 minutes. And then hopefully argue about something useful, like which gap you have to fix first. So I want to start with the rule that makes the whole scale work. Because if you take only one thing, one small thing from the next 20 minutes or so, it should be this one. And almost everybody gets it wrong the first time. Hey everyone, Petko Petkov here. And if you're new to this channel, the short version of what I do is that I normally spend my time on the operation side of AI rather than the model side. Because after 15 years inside enterprise IT, I have sat through far too many meetings where nobody could say whether the company was actually ready for AI. And today, I want to give you the 5-layer scale that finally turns that argument into a number. Okay, let's talk about how people instinctively use a maturity model. They score themselves across 5 layers. They see 4 solid scores and just one bad one. They average it out and they conclude in the end that they're roughly 80% of the way there, which it sounds reasonable, but is completely wrong. Your readiness is not the average of your layers. It is actually the lowest of them. And the reason is mechanical. An agent doesn't experience your organization as an average. It runs through your actual operations step by step. And every single time it reaches the weakest layer, it will hit that weakness at full force. If your governance is excellent and your data is a mess, the agent will not get to enjoy the governance. It will just read through the messy data every single time on every decision. If your data, on the contrary, is pristine and nobody owns the thing after launch, the quality obviously will decay quietly until it's worthless, no matter how clean it started. So 4 layers at status managed and 1 at status ad hoc is not 80% ready. It is not ready, simple as that. And the honest way to think of it is, you are as ready as your worst layer is. Because this is the one that the machine will find. And that's exactly why I want you to score 5 separate numbers. An overall grade will hide the things that will actually break you. So I already set 5 layers. Let me give you those 5 layers. Because the same ladder applies to every single layer. And in the end, once you have the vocabulary, you can score anything. So let's start. Level 1 is ad hoc. So what does this mean? It means that the thing exists only when someone decides to do it. There is no rule, no owner, no repeatability. The second level is repeatability, where a pattern has emerged and people mostly follow it. But it lives in a habit and a memory rather than anywhere you could point to. It works while the people who know it are still around. So now we move to the third layer, which is the defined. And this is the level that matters most in this whole episode. Because essentially defined means written down. Someone could read it and do it correctly. without actually asking you. It has an owner, it has a rule, it exists outside anyone's head. Then we move to the fourth layer, which is managed. So this layer is defined plus measurement. You're not just doing it, you are watching whether it actually works. And eventually you're gonna correct it when it drifts. And finally, level 5. So this is the level where the operation is consistent and observable enough that you could hand the decision to a machine and actually sleep at night. Now, I want you to hold on to level 3, because here is the line I will come back to at the end. Do not hand autonomous decisions to layer sitting below level 3. Remember this. Below defined, the thing you would be automating is not a process. Not a process at all. It is a habit that happens to be just working. And let's be honest, habits do not survive contact with a machine that runs them 10,000 times a day. Okay, I want to spend the next few minutes talking about the layers itself and just going into a deep dive mode. So let's walk through the 5 layers. And for each one, I will give you what level 1 actually looks like, what essentially the level 3 gate is, and in the end what level 5 looks like when it is genuinely working. And in the end I will finalize with the single move that will lift your level up. So the governance is first, which is simply who decides where AI is allowed to operate. At level 1, there is no owner at all, and every AI decision gets made ad hoc, per project, by whoever happens to be in the room. Ideally, you can spot this instantly, because when you ask who approved a particular pilot, you will get a name of a person, rather than a name of a process. Then we move to the level 3 gate. So there your decision rights and your use case gate are written down, which means that there is an actual document that says who decides, what gets approved and what doesn't, and against which criteria. This is not a slide about principles. It is a rule somebody could apply without you. And finally, at level 5, AI is managed as a portfolio against value and risk. When the rules are clear, approvals just stop being negotiation. It is quick and it is auditable at the same time. And your one move if you're stuck below 3. Stop trying to write the governance framework and instead write the single page that says who has the right to approve an AI use case and on what basis. One page will be the framework nobody finishes. So now we move to the second layer. So this is your clean data, because it is where most pilots quietly die. So again, level 1 is fragmented data with no source of truth and visible duplicates. And the tale here is very simple. Ask 2 systems the same question about the same customer, and if the person you ask just knows which system to believe, you are right at level 1. Because this knowledge lives in a person, not in the data. The level 3, in the middle, this is your golden records, plus ownership for your core domains, which means for your customer, for your vendor, for your product, there is one record that wins and one named person accountable for it. This is the moment that the data stops being everybody's problem and it becomes somebody's job. And finally, the level 5 is one trusted source that agents can reason on safely. The state where you would let a machine read your data and act on it, without a human quietly checking the output. I think it is important to be honest here about what sitting below that gate will cost you. Because at that point, it stops being a data problem. Every agent you point at that data will be confidently wrong in exactly the same way. And every one of them will need a human alongside it to catch what the data could not say. You will never scale this. And again, the one move if you are below level 3. Pick your single highest value entity, just one entity, and establish which system wins when they disagree. This one decision alone will move more than a year of general data quality talk. So now we move at layer 3, standardized processes. The standardized processes is the layer people find least glamorous and underestimate mostly. because it decides whether there is anything automatable in front of you at all. Level 1, every team does the work differently, and exceptions are the norm rather than just being the exception. The honest test here is to ask 3 people how the process runs and count how many different answers they're gonna come up with. If you get 3 answers, that means level 1, no matter what your process map says. Then we move to the level 3 gate. These are your SOPs and the decision trees of your key flows. Now, the steps are written, and crucially, the decisions inside the steps are written too. Because the decision tree is what tells a machine what to do when reality does not match the happy path. And finally, level 5 is consistent enough to automate end to end. And not consistent because people are being careful, but consistent because the process itself does not permit 10 different versions. Now, the cost of staying below this gate is easy to miss, because essentially nothing ever looks broken. The work will still get done, it will just be done in 10 different ways. And every one of those ways is another thing the automation has to be taught, or another reason it fails on a Tuesday for a case that nobody ever wrote down. The one move below level 3. Take the single flow you would most likely to automate and write down what happens in the exception cases, not the normal ones. Everybody documents the happy path, but in reality the exceptions are where the automation actually breaks, and they are the part that nobody has written down. So then we move to layer 4. This is the controls. Controls is essentially what lets a fast, autonomous decision maker operate without quietly doing damage. Again, level 1 is no access limits, no audit trail, and no rollback, which basically means that if the system did something wrong last Tuesday, you just simply could not prove it, and you couldn't undo it. So here, most of the organizations are further down this ladder than they believe, because the controls they do have were designed for humans working at human speed. The level 3 gate is that an audit trail and a rollback path for AI actions are defined, meaning somebody has decided in advance what gets locked and how you reverse a bad action before you needed it rather than during an incident. And finally, level 5 is continuous assurance, where mistakes get caught fast rather than discovered in a quarterly review. Here, the honest measure of level 5 is not whether errors happen. It is actually how long an error survives before something notices. And finally, the one move before your level 3. Pick the AI action with the largest impact and answer 2 questions on paper. How would we know it went wrong? And how would we undo it? If you cannot answer both, that use case is not ready, regardless of how good the model is. So we slowly move to the layer 5, which is the operating model. Level 1 is the one-off project with no owner after launch. And you already know what this looks like. A successful pilot, and then a slow fade as the business changes and nobody updates it. Then, the level 3 gate is your racing matrix, your funding, and the roadmap. Somebody is accountable by name. The money is a recurring client rather than a one-time innovation check. There is a plan for what it becomes next quarter. Finally, level 5. This is a standing capability that compounds, which means the thing that gets better every year rather than decaying. In very much the same way your finance function gets better rather than expiring. So there is a reason this layer comes last on the list and first in the queue to get skipped. And the reason for it is because you can't demonstrate it. You can demo a working agent, but you can't demo an owner. You cannot demo a recurring budget line, and you can't for sure demo a roadmap. So essentially the visible work gets funded and the invisible work gets postponed. And it stays postponed until somebody asks actually who is responsible for this. And finally, your one move below level 3. Name the owner and secure next year's budget line before you even scale, not after. I know it sounds administrative, and it is the single highest return thing on this entire list, because everything else you build sits on top of it. So let's spend a bit of time on this. How to score yourself. Now you have the ladder and you have the 5 layers, which means you can score yourself. And there are three rules that decide whether that score is worth anything. The first rule is to score what is true on Monday morning, not what is true in a strategy deck. This deck describes the intended operation, but essentially the machine will meet the real one. If process is officially defined, but everybody works around it, this is not level 3. And writing your score at 3 does nothing except making the gap invisible. The second rule is the one from the beginning. Gate on the weakest layer, not the average. Score 5 separate numbers and look at the lowest one, because this is your actual readiness. And finally, the third rule is the line I promised. Do not deploy autonomous agents into a layer sitting below level 3. Below defined, you are not automating a process. You are simply automating a habit. And habits do not survive being run at machine speed. And I'll give you a fourth rule, which is about who holds the pen. The person closest to a layer will almost always score it one level too high. And not because they're being dishonest. Don't get me wrong. It is because they can still see the intent behind the mess. And on the other side, the machine will only see the mess. So score the layer you own last. Or better, ask somebody who has to live downstream of it to give you their number. So I want to give you one more practical point, which is the cadence. I need you to score this about once a quarter. It takes 15 minutes when you know the ladder. And essentially the value is not the number. The value comes from watching which layer moved and which layer has been stuck for 2 to 3 quarters. Because this stuck layer is gonna tell you something the number alone will not. I want to move slowly to the end of this video and repeat one important fragment. Your AI readiness is not the average of your 5 layers. It is the lowest one. So here is your Monday morning move. As I said, 15 minutes, take the 5 layers, score each one from 1 to 5 using the descriptions in this video. And please be honest in the same way you would be with a friend, rather than the way you would be in a board meeting. Then circle the lowest number. Write down one sentence naming the single thing that would move that layer up, exactly one level up, and put a date on it. One level, one move, one date. And eventually, if you want the full version, rather than working from a memory, the AI Ready Operations Assessment has the complete matrix. All 5 layers at all 5 levels, in the exact wording I used here. So in the end you can score against the descriptions instead of your recollection of them. I will paste as well the link in the description. And of course, if you want to run this properly across a real portfolio, scored per use case with the fixed first plan and a worked example, this is what the pro version of the assessment is for. So this one is linked as well below. The only reason I keep coming back to this scale is that it turns an argument into a number, and eventually a number into a decision. So you already had it. Are we ready for AI? This was a question of confidence, and confidence is exactly the wrong instrument here. Because the people who are most confident about their readiness are usually the ones who have never looked at the weakest layer closely enough to be worried about it. And when you do look at all 5, you end up back at the line this whole series is built on. Your AI maturity will never exceed your operational maturity. The layers will eventually decide the ceiling. So if you want more from AI next year, the honest work is not choosing a better model. It is moving your worst layer up just one level and then doing it all over again. If this was useful, please subscribe. I publish one operator breakdown a week. One layer, one failure mode at a time. And of course, if you want to go deeper than a single video, the full operator library, the playbooks, and the courses is linked below as well. I want to close with this statement. I don't know if you have lived this one, if you have ever been the person who scored their own weakness layer one level too high because you could still see the good intentions behind the mess, then please don't be a stranger. Drop me a note in the comments and tell me which layer is actually holding your organization back. And remember this, don't build better AI, build better operations.